Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe. Now be done by Disney, or from Lucasfilm, whichever way you want to slice it. Legends. So today, I have for you a short story, a comic, a little bit of a video game, and a novel for you, all packaged kind of into one. So over here I have for you, there's a very, very short story you would read after the whole Fatal Alliance thing, which actually takes place kind of in the past, I think, but it's relevant to a character that will be appearing in the novel, so you'll read it here. That is Star Wars Last Battle of Colonel, I don't know, I think it's Colonel Jace Malcom. Jace Malcom, if you don't remember, during the Hope Old Republic trailer, which is the battle on Alderaan with Satele Shan and that Republic soldier and Malgus before he got this thing on his face, that soldier that attacks Malgus in that video is Jace. And so we just get to learn a little bit about him. We'll go a little bit more in depth with him in Annihilation. But that is, I don't want to really say anything. It's a very, very short story. But if you're reading chronologically, this would be about where you would read it. After that, we have the Lost Sons comics of the Old Republic. This focuses on a character that will also be one of the main characters, if not the main character, in the Annihilation the book, which is Theron Shan. Or Sean. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say, but Theron is the son of Satele. So both of them are descendants of Revan, at least I believe so. Bastila Shan. I think that's pretty much implied there. I don't know if it's ever explicitly stated, but he's sort of like, not a secret agent, but like, you know, he's not a smuggler like Jet or Han Solo, but he's not a soldier either. He's like more of like that thief class you'd play in like a RPG, right? Like he's the stealthy one. He's the one that's really good at hand-to-hand combat, but, you know, prefers to do things more stealthily and stuff, though he can easily hold his own against people if he needs to. He's a very cool character. I enjoy him. He does not know how to use the Force. We learn in this comic, you know, his mother does, but he does not. We'll learn about his father in Annihilation. We also learn in this comic, the only other thing really of note is that he has not seen Satele since he was 6 months. So basically he doesn't remember her, which is interesting. But anyway, that is about it for that. I mean, there's an overarching story. He meets up with somebody that helped raise him. It's a Jedi. There's a Twi'lek lady who's kind of cool. And then there's this Sith person that they gotta stop. It's okay. Nothing too great. There's cool moments in it. But, you know, it's a short little comic series. Don't want to really ruin anything for you if you haven't read it. But that would be where you would read that next. Then you'd switch over to the MMO, the Old Republic MMO. There's just a little portion you would need to play. This is where you would stop. Basically, spoilers for the video game. If you don't want it, skip ahead like a minute. I'll be done talking about it. The False Emperor portion of the game with Darth Malgus. Basically, in this portion of the game, you know, this is after you've defeated the Emperor, the player character at least. Again, this is following the Jedi Knight class storyline, so if there's any differences in the other storylines, I'm not talking about that. I'm specifically talking about the Jedi Knight class one. And you see Malgus, he's helping the Republic only so he can help get rid of other Sith rivals, you know, because he's trying to take, and I called it from the very last, where we ended off with the MMO, I called it, you know, now that the Emperor's gone, Malgus is going to try to take his place. I thought he would last a lot longer, though, because he gets taken out. They get rid of him. They kill him. And I guess what makes it so disappointing is because he was the best Sith, I think, of this time period. I don't think we can call the Emperor, Vitiate, or Valkorion, as we shall see him soon to be, a Sith. He's lived too long to be that. So, you know, I think he takes a mix of both philosophies. I don't think he accepts either of them anymore. I think he doesn't care. I think he thinks he's beyond both of them. But I think, out of all the Sith we've seen, I think Malgus kind of perfectly encapsulates them. You know, and being honest, you know, going through the Star Wars Expanded Universe, you know, we've had the Sith be a threat for the past 5,000 years, and having so many of them, it just gets kind of repetitive, and it gets kind of old, and you get kind of over it. Like, you're like, oh, what are we doing today? We're fighting a Sith? Let's go. We did this in the Knights of the Old Republic games, or we're doing this in the MMO, we're seeing it in every novel, you know, Sith, 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 and it gets kind of old. But Malgus was different. Because I feel like a lot of these Sith, I'm not saying like that they're not a threat, but they're pushovers. They don't fully embody this Sith philosophy, if that makes sense. You know, like, they're all about the power, they got that portion correct. But I don't feel like these Sith fully embody what it should be, as Malgus kind of does. So having him gone is just really crappy, because I really liked his character, and I think he's just the best Sith of this time period. Of course, this only helps further elaborate, for me, why Darth Bane was needed. When we, you know, I've already reviewed those, so I'm not going to do that again. You can check those out. But Darth Bane was needed, because, you know, it gets a little repetitive after a while. But yeah, so he's gone. And if I spoiled some stuff for you guys, I'm sorry. But yeah, so that would be what you do. After that happens, you would stop playing it, and you would go back to the novels, which is the title of this video, where we get to the Old Republic Annihilation again by Drew Karpyshyn. It begins with Theron trying to save the Twi'lek that he met in the comic books, which was interesting, because he has this, like, brother-sister sort of relationship that he feels he has with her. And then we see Jace again in this book, which I didn't realize till this portion. I wrote down the note here, but I said it earlier already, that he's the Republic soldier from the Hope trailer. We get to meet Darth Marr, who I believe is going to be a bigger, now that Malgus is gone, he's going to become kind of like the leading Sith that we're going to see in the MMO, so he gets a spotlight here. The main sort of antagonist of this book is because, like, there's this weird thing within the comic book where we have this Sith who was, like, kind of like, it was like this weird tech force combination where it was like the ships were the threat of the comic book, or like there was a super weapon being built that was stopped. And now here we have like this like super Star Destroyer or something like that, not Star Destroyer. The ship that they have is the threat, because she's like linking, she's got like, you know, things stuck to her head, she's like using the force and stuff to control the very ship. She's also got, like, you know, like these cybernetic implants. Think like Deus Ex or Cyberpunk 2077 or any other thing that has that sort of thing. Ghost in the Shell if you're an anime fan. But she has that in her, and she's kind of main antagonist, and it kind of works because while Theron isn't a super powered, you know, Jedi, he does have, you know, cybernetic implants too, so you have that kind of connection. Carid, interesting enough, is a falling, which I like because I like Shadows of the Empire, and we get to see another falling, which is of the same race. But the most interesting part about her is that she's a former apprentice to Nost Dural. Speaking of which, in this very novel, Nostaral is quite a big character in it, which is great because, you know, you have the Journal of Nostaral. You know, he's mentioned in a couple places. He's literally the figurehead for all the timeline videos for the Old Republic that give, like, little lore clips that you don't have to read about. So he gets a lot of very cool action moments, a lot of cool, you know, just, like, conversation moments. So it was very cool to get a much more in-depth, you know, kind of look at the character. You know, it wasn't, like, super in-depth, it wasn't super character-heavy, but it was nice to just, you know, like, see this guy in action and do stuff. Him and Plo Koon are definitely very cool characters from two separate eras, but, you know, the Caldors are interesting race, to be sure. Here's the next big revelation. Jace, the Republic soldier, is in fact... Oh, I'm spoiling stuff. I'm gonna stop that. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't spoil it too much, to be honest. So I'm gonna stop there, because I almost said, like, the biggest one I think is the spoiler for this book. So let me just backtrack, because that kind of still works a bit with what I was saying. So let me back up for a second. Non-spoiler-wise, that was all sort of spoilers, but it still kind of works for this. So we're gonna stick with it. But basically that's the thread of the book is Carad, and they gotta get a plan together to stop Carad. There's other stuff that goes on in this book, but that is basically the essential plot, the overarching plot of the book. There's other stuff going on that's spoilers that I almost just ruined for you guys. So if you have not read this book, it is time for you to go, because I'm going to talk about the rest of this book. But by accidentally spoiling stuff, I accidentally did a non-spoiler analysis of basically the overarching plot of this book. So there you go. Gotta stop Darth Carad, who is a former apprentice to Nostaral, because she'll do bad stuff otherwise. So that's the non-spoiler. Spoiler time now. If you don't want spoilers, please go. This is a big one right here. Jace from the Hope trailer, and I think he might have also been in the Return trailer as well. This is spoiler time. If you don't want spoilers, it's time for you to go. Jace is Theron's dad. Which means Satele Shan acted on her emotions. Now again, I have said this time and time again. If you've been watching my videos, I probably sound like a broken record. But I do truly believe, and I believe there's evidence from the books itself to prove that Luke's Jedi Order is the best it could have possibly been. I don't know about after he died, but as long as Luke lived, the Jedi Order was at its peak. Even at its worst, it was still better than the eras that preceded it, for the simple fact that Luke was a stark light side person, right? He wasn't like a gray Jedi. You know, a lot of people like to talk about the gray Jedi. He was not. He was pure light, pure and simple. But there were rules that were set up by the Jedi that the light side never said. You know, the Force was never like, oh, you can't get married and stuff. That was something that the Jedi did out of fear, which is something that they're not supposed to have. They're not supposed to have fear, right? But they had fear of the dark side, fear of it entering their hearts, so they banned certain things to try to keep it from being that way. There is nothing wrong with love. You know, I'm a Christian. I've mentioned this before, you know. You may not be, that's okay. But, you know, I believe, you know, that everything that is sinful is wrong, but God truly wants what's best for you. So if we're making the Force be God in that scenario, you know, I don't see how being in love or having a family is necessarily wrong unless you let it become a problem, right? The problem with Anakin is his fear, his fear of loss affected him too much. He got too possessive of Padme. Luke is pretty equal with you know, Mara Jade, and you know, he loves her, but he's not gonna stop her from going out into battle because he, knows that the dark side can, affect him, but he trusts her and, keeps his cool. I mean, to look at, if you haven't read Legacy of the Force, I won't spoil anything for you, but there's something that happens in that series that pisses off Luke, like as it would piss off anyone, okay? And he knows, like, he even has the foresight to be like, I cannot, participate in this action, because if I do, I might turn to the dark side. But getting married was never an issue, Having a family was never an issue, I love that Luke was able to find, like, that kind of balance of, all right, light side users, but you can do this. He trained them to be able to have that and yet keep away from the dark side. And I appreciate that. But here, and you see that it causes strife among all three parties. It ruins it, it makes life more difficult for everyone. You have Jace, who never even knew that he had a son. That's a whole thing right there. You have Theron, who, even though he's very logical, very, thinks with his brain and tries not to let his emotions get the best of him, it still affects him, as it would any kid. That is, I see that as an ultimate flaw. When you can clearly see how this is affecting these people here, how wrong it is, and yet Satele has to find a way to justify it to herself, But it's wrong what she did, and I'm going to say that flat out. She was wrong to do that. I know she thought she was right. I know all the Jedi think that they're right, but it was wrong to do that. Again, we had Revan, who had found this middle ground. He was living proof that you can return to the dark side. He even brought somebody back to the light by professing love to them. He was the perfect example of what the Jedi could have strived for, and maybe Vader and everything else could have been entirely avoided. But nobody wanted to listen to Revan. They asked him to keep his mouth shut. They even were... See, like, if they truly believed it was evil, they wouldn't even let Revan be married to her. It's like, oh yeah, you can. You're just not allowed to ever preach this to anyone else. Don't you dare. What? I don't know. Anyway, that was a big revelation. Satele and Theron even have a confrontation. And, it's just... she doesn't feel sorry for anything she's done, but she's like, yeah, I'll be there for you if you need me, even though you haven't been there for, what, 20 years, 30 years? I don't know. It's really unfair to Theron, too. But, whatever. At least he might get a drink with his dad by the end of the book. So that's cool. But it was a good conversation, though. I enjoyed that part of the book. Then we get to near the end of the book. We have Theron, we have Nostaral on the ship. We have Jace, Satele, and the Twi'lek girl doing other stuff. And we get to see Nostaral be really cool, slicing people, fighting, holding his own. And then the bad guy gets defeated, and seemingly happily ever after. Of course, we still have the rest of the Sith to deal with. And in the background, we have Valkyrian building the Eternal Army, or Empire, which he apparently has been for years now, because his soul was like, I don't even know how we're going to discuss that, how he was like two places at once, kind of like Abeloth, I guess. It's crazy. There's a whole lot of stuff that we have to explore still. But that is basically it for the Old Republic Annihilation. I didn't have too many notes, but overall, I really enjoyed it much, 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 much more than Fatal Alliance. As I said, Fatal Alliance is not a bad book, but I enjoyed it. I think it definitely goes Deceived, Revan, Annihilation, and then Fatal Alliance, if we're talking about the Old Republic novels. I think it goes in that order. None of them are bad, but Fatal Alliance would probably be my least favorite. Oh, actually, no, if we're counting Red Harvest as in the Old Republic, then Red Harvest is definitely at the very low tier bottom. Because that one, I think I said it, I didn't mean to sound like a contradiction. I think I said it was bad in my previous video. I didn't mean that it was bad, because earlier I said it wasn't bad, it just wasn't great, and it's just boring. It's not bad, it's just But yeah, that is pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Sharing episode a ton. We're officially done with all the comics, short stories, and novels in this time period. Everything we have... Well, actually, sorry, that's not true. We have short stories left. That's it. But mostly it's just the MMO now. And then we'll get to finishing off the rest of the Lost Tribe of the Sith. Then Knight Errant. And then we move on to Darth Bane. And officially enter after that the prequel era. So I hope you're all excited for that. I'll see you all next time in the next video of our Expanded Universe journey together. Thank you so much for watching again. And may the Force be with you.